Mr. Hurley says we all have to sit down and be quiet now. Thank you all for staying. I already talked too long earlier, so I just wanted you all to know that those of you who are familiar with the life and work of Florence Foster Jenkins are about to be offered an opportunity to spend a brief while with an old friend. Those of you who are not familiar with the life and work of Florence Foster Jenkins are about to get a view of a unique portion of American musical history. Enjoy.
It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. I got a little story I think you should know. We're drinking, my friend, to the end of a brief episode. No, I don't take requests. So make it one for my baby and one more for the... Like anyone comes to a bar to get grief from the pianist. No doubt you have enough of your own. Still, this is a kind of anniversary, so I'm not making any promises. And that's how it goes. And Joe, I know you're getting ready to close. So thanks for the cheer. I hope you didn't mind my bending your ear. Well, this torch I found... Okay, enough. I'm not down. I'm just a little down. I'm not suicidal. I'll be right as rain by tomorrow. My usual cheery self. So, what's next? A tune for her. Why not? Something she liked. What? Mrs. Foster Jenkins did not care for cheap music, and I doubt that you want to hear Mozart. Oh. She did like this. Although she pretended she didn't. Crazy rhythm, here's the doorway. I'll go my way, you go your way. Crazy rhythm, here's goodbye to you. I counted up, and it's 20 years ago today since she's been gone. Sometimes her name comes up, people still laugh. You know, it's wonderful how everyone is so witty. They never heard her sing, but they know enough to laugh. Here is where we have a showdown. I'm too highbrow, you're too low down. Crazy rhythm, here's goodbye to you. Tickets were like gold. Those days, all the famous smart people like Cole Porter, Noah Coward, Elsa Maxwell, Walter Winchell, the Aga Khan, they all came to hear her sing. They say that when a highbrow meets a lowbrow walking along Broadway, soon the highbrow he'll have no brow. Ain't it a shame? And you're to blame. When you sing, you're like a prize fighter, but you don't use your fists. Only air, a thin column of breath, and that's it. You're mouthing words, your ears are ringing, you're making sounds. Who knows what's coming out? You can never hear what others hear. No two voices are alike. A singer takes a great deal on trust. A true artist finds his or her own true voice. Second raters, they all sound the same. They say that, people used to say to me, why does she do it? I always thought the better question is, why did I? Everyone has their coming-of-age story, how it was when they first hit New York. Imagine, I'm 24. Do that for me. It's 1927, new kid in town, ready to tear up the sidewalks. What's the use of prohibition? You produce the same condition. Crazy rhythm, I've gone crazy too. None of us had any money back then, my friends and I, but nobody felt poor. We were young, we were on the brink, about to do great things. Meanwhile, we did this and that to get by. Back then, when singers were tired, we taught voice. Madam this and Maestro that, the old Hotel Ansonia crowd. I played for their lessons, and at night, I rehearsed my solo recitals, though I never played any. And I wrote songs, tried to get them sung. Art songs. We did that back then. So, after 5 years of living this life, let me tell you, I was pretty damn tired. Her nephew, Gil, was someone I knew from around. He said his aunt had a unique kind of sound. He said she needed someone to play. She had a suite at the Ritz-Carlton, 16th floor. I was there next day. She gave me a glass of sweet sherry and showed me into the music room.
Mr. McMoon.
She said,
What matters most is the music you hear in your head. Don't you agree? The impassable ideal, as it were. The beauty not quite within our grasp. I have always been a great lover of music. It's the music that draws me. It's the music that must come before all else. Let me be frank. While singing for friends, I have sometimes allowed myself to be accompanied by those who could not always give the music its due. And without wishing offense to this, my first public recital, I must be ruthless. I seek no rewards for my singing, certainly no financial reward, no public réclamé. I assure you that this is no mere act of vanity.
Mrs. Foster.
No, please let me finish. I know what it must seem like. A man like yourself, a woman like myself, comes to a man like you from out of nowhere, declaring herself ready to scale the pinnacles of the soprano repertoire. You could consider me nothing more than a mere dilettante.
Mrs. Foster Jenkins.
No, please let me speak. I have sung for various different charities in different drawing rooms. And, my own personal crowd. I've sung for my own personal crowd, and friends have been kind enough to compliment me on the depth of my feelings, which is why it has now been proposed that my name on a handbill might prove an attraction amongst my own circle of friends, mind you, not the public at large, but enough to fill a modest hall, which is rather exciting, don't you think? What I seek, have sought, am seeking is a colleague, a collaborator, a soulmate.
Mrs. Foster Jenkins.
No, please, you must let me speak. I would not expect you to take on such a task without proper remuneration that I intend to be fully commensurate with your dignity. Now, what do you say?
It's by no means impossible what you ask.
I thank you for that. You have given me hope.
It's a matter of polishing, you say.
Perfecting, refining. May I confide in you, Mr. McMoon? Several weeks ago, I had a dream that I was singing in public.
Yes.
And do you know what it was that I was singing in my dream? The famous aria of the Queen of the Night, Der Hollow Rock Cocked, in meinem Herzig. Oh, the very words produced chills. Oh, and you are familiar with that particular aria, are you not?
Zauberflöte.
Comment?
magic flute.
Exactly. And do you know who was in the audience, smiling up at me, encouraging me? Mr. Mozart.
Mr.
Mozart. I would hardly consider myself a follower of Mr. Freud, but the meaning seemed all too apparent. Did I have it in my voice, I wondered? Few sopranos are equipped to tackle the Queen of the Night. Well, you know that the aria's range is quite extensive. And I had my doubts. One is only human, after all. Oh, and the very next day, this is almost too uncanny. The very next day, while driving in a taxi on Lexington Avenue, I found myself in a slight collision. The F above C burst from me spontaneously.
F above C?
Passerbys were enraptured, amazed. I stepped from the wreckage, a new woman. Oh, but enough talk. Shall we take the plunge? Shall we make music? Shall we see if we suit? S'il vous plaît. Ah, Fanciulla. Or perhaps not before lunch. Oh, see. Oh, grateful to the voice. Oh, Lucia. She does present a fascinating problem, does she not? Singing in Italian while at the same time suggesting a Scottish burr. Shall I mention any special favorite? Please shout it out. Bohème, Faust, Rose, and Cavalier, each delicious in its own way. Oh, dear Rigoletto. Oh, caro nome. You are familiar with the works of Mr. Verdi, are you not? Most music lovers are modern, or don't know any of this. Cher maestro.
Was she hearing? What was going on in her head? What was I in the presence of a mere delusion or just some sort of dementia? Okay. Wait.
Yes?
Let's see.
Yes, Mr. McMoon.
Okay. I have to say, I'm hearing a certain want of accuracy.
Accuracy?
Some of the intonations are perhaps not quite what is written.
Not?
You don't hear it?
Oh, I only hear the music, Mr. McMoon.
Well, listen. Da, 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 da.
See, this is exactly what I wanted. This is what I had hoped for. You have quite an attractive voice, Mr. McMoon. I wondered if you ever considered developing it, or are you content merely playing piano? I never could be, but then again, I have a temperament. Sham Maestro! You must forgive me if I get carried away and obfuscate the tempi, but this is exactly what I want you to stop me from doing. I put myself entirely in your hands.
Well, sure. Okay.
You must be harsh with me.
Harsh. Well, how can I say? It seems to me some notes may not be quite secure.
Secure?
Not quite.
Not quite. Ah! Have you perfect pitch, Mr. McMoon?
Pitch.
Yes, pitch.
I have relative pitch.
Oh, never fear. It's no disgrace, though it must be inconvenient.
You mean you have
Perfect pitch? Yes. You don't believe me?
Oh,
No.
no.
Come and believe me. Well, I don't blame you if you did. So few of us are so blessed.
You spoke of a recital, Mrs. Foster Jenkins, that you're preparing for a recital. I'm wondering what exactly it is you mean by that.
Well, a recital, you would play, I would sing songs.
And the scale of it?
Oh, I see. A modest affair. A few of my select friends, perhaps 200 or so. Certainly not more than 300 or 400. Right here in the Ritz, in the ballroom, to benefit some of my favorite charities.
So this is not something the general public.
Oh, well, if some music lover should want to attend, I would hope that they would be seated.
Still, you're not expecting to be, say, reviewed?
Those dreadful newspaper people? Would they be welcome? On no account. No. If you hunger to see your name in print, Mr. McMoon, I'm afraid that you will be disappointed. If it's ambition...
And right there, I had a choice. Right there. I could have made some excuse, gone out into the afternoon, and gone about my business. But she was so absolutely, transparently sure of herself. Not in a vain way. She was right about that. She believed the way a child believed. But It was almost touching somehow. And I thought it would be intolerable of me not to try to protect her. So was that her vanity or mine? Shall we continue?
Bravo!
Each note has its own value. When we see a B flat on the page, for example, we must be certain that that is the note that we sing. That is an absolute. This is not something about which we can be evasive.
I think that one can be too analytical, don't you? Nothing is more detrimental to singing than this modern day mania for accuracy. Few people, you say that a note is an absolute value, right? Well, what is it more? Nothing more than just placed on the music to guide us. A vocal artist must have some latitude.
Mrs. Foster Jenkins.
Yes?
I feel that when beginning any new relationship, one must do so with a clear head. I wouldn't want to make a commitment to you now, only to disappoint you later.
Oh, you have other engagements, perhaps that would take up your time? Perhaps plans to travel?
I'm afraid my bank account doesn't leave much in the way of trips right now.
You're being frank, Mr. McMoon. Let me do the same. I was not always as you see me. Before my father's death, I felt myself a need to go out and make my own way. When confronted with the necessity to choose between art and personal comfort, I chose to support myself. I labored many long hours over the keyboard to teach what was the beauty and of music to the children of Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. I am well aware of the privilege that my income brings. One of the sweet uses of my income is making it available to other people.
Now, this recital, which is not to be reviewed, Gil mentioned a date what?
6 weeks from today exactly.
One recital, just one. What harm could it do? It wasn't what I had hoped for, but was it my fault that I had the entirety of that month's rent to pay, since my latest roommate moved out somewhat abruptly after a disagreement over the meaning of monogamy? I was already 29. You can't be promising indefinitely. I'm not quite sure what you think I can do for you, Mrs. Foster Jenkins. You've hardly heard me play. Perhaps my style would not suit you to show you to your best advantage. Your particular voice, Mrs. Foster Jenkins, your voice,
My voice is not a large one, Mr. McMoon. What I have is something much more rare. That of the true coloratura. I don't flatter myself. My own particular gift is purity of tone. I know this might be hard for you to believe, Mr. McMoon, but when I was a young woman, my singing was actively discouraged. I have no doubt the dark night of the soul. Oh, dear me, my hands are trembling. You must not think me precipitate, Mr. Moon, but somehow I feel that the whole of my entire life has been a preparation for this meeting. There is a vibration between us, artistically speaking. I somehow feel as though Our partnership is fated.
I thought of my friends, what they would say when I walked out onto the platform with her, when I sat at the piano, when I raised my hands to play. I thought of the rent. Shall we proceed?
Bravo! Stop! Oh, you must stop! Oh, this is wrong. If you please.
I'm sorry.
A time like this calls for sacred music. Oh, years ago, this is the piece that awoke my soul. The Ave Maria. Oh, Mr. Goodnotes, of course. I leave Mr. Schubert's to the mezzos. Oh, I must say that this has always been my final encore. I find my audience has come to expect it. Often it provokes tears. Starting, please, at bar 22, the Sancta. Let us start with what is best, for only good can follow.
We were together 12 years, which means we met, over 30 years ago. Jesus, ancient history. I'm a relic. And she's a myth. The crazy lady who couldn't sing. We spent many hours rehearsing. Many, many hours. And when the big day came, she sang a total of 24 songs and 5 encores. Despite all the false starts and the drop notes, one selection followed another until at last we were done, and she was taking her bows. I thought I'd slip up to the music room. My job was done. I figured I'd change and slip out.
Oh, dear heart. Oh, please, come, meet my friends. Oh, they were just overawed by your playing. Finally, to meet someone on one's own level, it has been a gift. We must get to work right away.
What?
We have so much to do.
What? You're going to do this again?
It seems that a great deal of the audience just begged for our return. People were crying. I literally saw some stuff their mouths with handkerchiefs to stifle the sobs, I suppose. Oh, I will not do nothing without you. We must get to work right away. Toot sweet, tomorrow.
You mean do this again?
Yes, of course.
She always said that her singing didn't count unless she was under the spell of the music. You know, only the music mattered. And the thing about music and about singing, finally, well, like she said the first day, what's important is what's in your head. Now, whether she was incredibly resilient or just plain crazy, I don't know. Either or both, who can say? But whichever, I have to say that what the audience heard was one thing. What she heard was something else. What she heard was...
So